If all of the masks were suddenly stripped bare from this world, and everyone's faces were made plain to see, would you recognize your friends as they were? Would you, in looking in the mirror, recognize yourself? Would you want to even associate with the being that you see below? Would you embrace them wholeheartedly and openly, with acceptance, knowing that they are enough just as they are? Hi, I'm Tarek, and this is my space where I talk about all things autism and science and spirituality and gaming and art and music and whatever the heck else comes to mind. Today, I want to talk with you all about the idea of masking, specifically within the context of those on the spectrum, though this is a phenomenon that I believe affects everyone on this planet Earth. Right. So, what is masking? It's about as plain and simple as as the name might imply. Masking is when you put on a personality that is not your own, and you kind of play the part of that personality, usually to fit in. It really is that simple. But this is usually done because the person who's doing this feels like they can't fit in, or that they must pretend to be able to fit in or to be accepted. Again, this is an issue that I believe affects everyone on this planet Earth, though I'm just sharing kind of an autistic side of things. Along with masking, often it is done out of a feeling of necessity, a feeling of not really seeing any other way to integrate or to interact with those around you. And that's often where people start doing so. And oftentimes, too, it is done in a way where the person masking isn't really understanding what they're masking about. It is more so a repeated behavior of like, oh, I kind of see you guys doing that, so I'm just going to repeat that behavior, and like that's going to be the personality because I repeat it. You guys are happy. I don't understand why, but I'm going to go ahead and do it, and like that's the version of me that I know is accepted, even though it might conflict with my true nature. And oftentimes too, it is not done consciously, though it can be done consciously. It is just not oftentimes the person doing it doesn't realize they're doing it because they've kind of enveloped themselves in this mask, this persona that they've created. They might even forget who they were beneath. This, I think, is an interesting subject for me to share my perspective on, because I have certainly masked throughout my life and still certainly struggle with it in certain cases, though I'm working my best at it. I didn't quite do it to the extent that a lot of other people on the spectrum end up doing so. And not everyone on the spectrum ends up doing so, and some aren't even capable of doing so. For me personally, my mask was mostly shutting myself down, dimming my light is a term that kind of like really connects with me. It was mostly just kind of dialing myself way back, both in skill and intellect and presence and everything, not even to fit in, just so I could just ride under the radar. And that's what I did for most of my life. I thankfully later in high school did end up connecting with some very kind folks that were easier for me to be more of myself around and felt more accepted with. But even by then, I was very subconsciously just kind of shutting myself off and riding under the radar for most of it. For others, this can often look like specifically just acting like a group. Like if you want to fit in with the cool kids, you start doing like what the cool kids do, and you might start smoking. I don't think cool kids smoke anymore. I know I'm way out of the loop. There are particular interests. You might just throw yours aside and not talk about whatever particular special interest you have or anything of that like, and you learn to tamp that down or to hide it within because you don't want to be judged for it. Um, just you might pick up hobbies that don't interest you at all, just so you can be like, oh yeah, I too like the sports ball. Um, so that's typically how it can manifest for people. Uh, as I said, for myself, it was more of a dimming, which I think a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't realize that they do so much. I know where mine came from because I know growing up, I did make a lot of people uncomfortable with the things that I knew, or things that I remembered, or things that I was capable of, and that didn't make me as many friends. Um, and that was something where I just learned to be like, okay, I'm gonna upset people if I'm better than them at something, so I have to pull that back. And I really just didn't really allow myself to excel at anything. I would come close in a lot of cases and just allow the other person um, to, I would never allow myself to be the person who's shown the brightest. And this mask in particular has been something that I've had to work at. I feel that I still do it in a lot of cases, and that's kind of what this project that I'm doing is helping out with as well. Because I feel that I even do it here some, but I'm at least getting a little more comfortable with not. Um, and it did come from that sense that that version of me was too much for people. That it wasn't winning me friends. It wasn't ingratiating me with people. It was making things more difficult. But 30 years on this round orb called Earth, and I've learned that it's not the quantity of friends that you have; it is certainly the quality. And your true friends, the people that truly care about you and that are going to stick with you through the end, are the ones that are going to accept you the way you are without your mask. And I suspect you have those sorts of people in your life. And if you don't, I think if you are within a group of people that don't accept you for you and only take this masked version of you, well, then they're just truly not your friends. They are only accepting of this version that you've created for them to like, and it's not you. They don't like you. They like that mask. And if you ever break that expectation, they drop you in an instant. Whereas true friends know that just as you are is fine. Just as you are is enough. Even if it is weird or silly or different or not always easy to be around. We are all our own people, and we all have our own idiosyncrasies and what have you. And well, a true friend is going to accept that and be willing to work with that. Yeah, so what to do if you are masking, I guess, is the question. I would say I preface everything that I say here with, these sorts of things take time. And it's not going to be an overnight transformation. But as with anything, recognizing there's an issue is the first step to making a change for it. If you are masking, I would suggest that... I almost had to sneeze. If you are masking, I would suggest that within you, you truly do understand your own wants and needs. They're just buried. But they are there. They are speaking to you, and they can be rediscovered again. Perhaps you do just outright know the way that you would like to be if you didn't have to pretend. And if it can be different for each person. I would suggest that be understanding with yourself and the time it'll take, and be understanding with those in your life and the time it might take for them to adjust as well. If you are very much different from the person that you feel that you are at the core, that sort of change may be drastic for people. There may be people in your life that won't be able to understand those changes or cope with them, and they may fall off, but that's a sign that that person wasn't really your friend. And it hurts and it sucks, I know, but you're much better off having people that do accept and understand you as you are. Um, there's nothing to say that this is something that needs to take a long time. It can be a short, just it can even just be overnight, just like, oh yeah, this is how I am, this is what I am doing now. For me, it's been taking a little bit longer, but in major ways, I have been able to not mask, and I am thankfully surrounded by a lot of people that do accept me for how I am. And a lot of it had just been re-exploring that version of myself. Again, as I said, this space is part of exploring me and how I express myself and trying out different things. So I've been very thankful for that. Well, that's about all I wanted to share on the subject of masking. If you have your own thoughts on the subjects and what it means to be masking or how to handle that, feel free to leave a comment or a suggestion down in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope wherever you are that you are safe, happy, and healthy. And until next time, thank you.